Greetings, it is I, Tentus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the EARTHDAWN Roleplaying game system. Well, where we last left off, we were diving into combat. Let's continue with combat now. So, changing your action. We did talk about this a little bit, but the fact is that changing your action is something that you might want to consider, especially because a lot of the events and things going around you might alter the situation into a point in time where whatever declared action you had doesn't work anymore. This especially holds true with those that had low initiative test results and are acting fairly low in the initiative count. They have to react to a lot of the situations, and the action that they declared could be not helpful anymore. It could just not work anymore. The thing is, again, you can choose to change it. It's just every time you change it, declare something else. You increase the difficulty of the test you're doing, the new test, by 2. You can change this any number of times. But, here's the very important but, each time you change the decision of what action you're doing, it cumulatively increases the difficulty by 2. This means that indecision is horribly punished. If you're very indecisive and continually react to every little situational change that there is, sort of declaring that, oh, I'm doing this now, oh, I'm doing that now, it will increase it by 2 every time. So it's really good to stick with your guns, so to say, about the action you're doing, about the decision of what you're doing, because continually changing it is going to make it so difficult it'll be impossible to do anyway. So you should make sure that when you do change it, you change it at a point in time where it doesn't make any sense to do that action. As long as that action still might have a use, perhaps stick with it. Or at least wait to change your mind, so to say. React last, not after every little thing that occurs. Now, an important note about this is if you chose a combat option early on, you can't change that combat action. Regardless of changing your actual action, your combat option, once you've declared it, that's what you got for the turn. Now, it is important to note that this combat option might not be helpful to you. Just because you've declared that it's what you'd be using doesn't mean you actually have to use it. Oh, there's what we have. I can't change what the combat option I've chosen is, but I can choose not to use that combat option. I can still use it if I want to. This also means that if my combat option would cause strain, it doesn't cause that strain until I actually use it. So if I should choose not to use it and just move on, I'm fine. I've taken the proper steps here. All right, let's start talking about the attack. This is the most common of all actions that you could declare. It has its own procedure that you're going to follow. You make your attack test. You determine if that attack is successful. You make a damage check. You compare that to the armor of the target you're going on. You check to see if the attack would have knocked down the target. And finally, you check to see if the target is unconscious or dead, because both of those things could occur also along the way here. Now, whatever you attack with, spell, weapon, something else, all of them will require, of course, some kind of attack test. This test is determined by the talent, the skill, the ability that you're using. It will tell you what it is, whether, again, it's weapon, spell, something else. It will also tell you a difficulty that you're trying to meet, a difficulty you're trying to hit. This difficulty more often than not is reflected by the type of attack it is. If it's something like a weapon, it's going to be the physical defense. Spell will be spell defense. Other abilities will tell you which one of these. And there are even some talents or skills which will specifically say that it's their social defense that you're actually targeting, rather than one of the other 2 defenses. So each of these abilities will give you what you're rolling and the difficulty it is. Your character can only make one combat attack test per combat turn. So you're making only that one attack test per combat turn. And the use of the primary combat test, when you're actually making that attack roll, is a standard action. The target's difficulty number Now, it could be modified depending on the situation that you're in. Situational modifiers can alter their defenses and change it a lot. The fact is, you also can use certain combat actions to modify the target's armor, to modify the armor defenses. And it could also modify your own against attacks against you, so you can see that combat options once again move in here to help alter things in a way that might assist your characters. The test results are compared to the defense, that's the modified defense, and if you exceed that, congratulations, you've successfully hit your opponent with whatever type of attack you're doing. Here is where you'd make your damage test or your effect test, depending on what kind of ability you're using to see if you're successful or not. If we have hit our successful, we move on, we're continuing with this portion of combat. If we miss, it's not going to have any effect. Unless specifically stated, some effects, some talents, some skills, some spells might say it has a effect on a miss. That's an exception to this rule, but normally, no effect whatsoever. You're effectively at the point in time where you're just going to end your turn. You're done. You've finished up what you were pretty much doing. We've moved beyond most of the steps that we're going to worry about here. Now, some attacks penetrate armor. Whether it's a lucky shot or perhaps a focused shot in something, there are various types of shots which can overcome, various types of attacks which can overcome the armor, the defenses of your opponents. This is referred to as an armor-defeating attack. An armor-defeating attack is one that gets excellent results versus a physical defense. So if I get excellent results on, let's say, my weapon attack roll, I have now gotten a armor-defeating attack. Now, this can also be done with other various talents. For example, you could use spells and get on your spell attack versus the spell defense, you could also get a armor defeating result. It is possible to do that. That would be, of course, for a combat spell. Either way, once you've hit them for this armor-defeating attack, you're going to roll your damage test as normal, but it's going to be unmodified when it's applied to the target. They don't get their armor to modify your damage test. You've effectively defeated their armor. It's exactly what it sounds like. Now, there are some things which provide an adjustment to this. For example, shields provide an extra protection against armor-penetrating attacks, making it harder to hit that armor penetration. There are other abilities which may state that you need extraordinary results to deal an armor-defeating result. There are other ones that say you cannot have an armor-defeating result on this, depending on the situation, depending on the creature, depending on the armor it has. All these situations can exist particular. There are monsters and there are creatures out there that specifically will say things like, oh, you need the extraordinary results, or you cannot penetrate their armor. These abilities are normally on them rather than players or NPCs, but that's it for today. I continued talking about combat, first with talking about changing your action just a little bit more. Going over those final details you have to know about changing your action, because it's something you might have to do. There are certain options regarded that you can't change, and it's important to know that your attack options can't change. You've chosen them, they're gone, you don't need to use them. Once you choose them, you're good. Then I moved on and started talking about the attack action itself. The action of attacking someone, which there is a procedure for that. I began going in details against each of these procedures, making your attack roll, determining your success. And of course, we're skirting around the fact that there is an armor penetration that you can do that can overwhelm the defenses with your attack if you get so lucky, which is going to be leading us into next time anyway, because that's what we're talking about next time. Damage. Damage test results and the rest of your combat resolution sequence. The various steps that you have to resolve combat using an attack. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you would say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows for the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon. Link description below. There's some great rewards there. It helps to grow and improve the channel and the empire. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.